It seems like my entire timeline was in Brazil for Carnival, and it got me thinking about the history of Brazil and its relationship with blackness. Have you ever wondered why Brazil is one of the most racially diverse countries on earth despite having the majority of the slaves from the transatlantic slave trade? Let's talk about how Brazil became known as the racial democracy and why that story is way more complicated. While other countries like the US were passing heavy segregation laws, the Brazilian government was doing the exact opposite. They were literally trying to breed out blackness. This was called Branqueamento, or the Whitening policy. In the late 1800s, after slavery was abolished, the government was terrified of becoming a black nation. Their solution? Scientific racism. They believed European genes were stronger, so they paid millions of Europeans to move to Brazil, hoping they'd mix with the local population and whiten the country. The idea that the nation could become more civilized by increasing its European ancestry. So what did they do? They promoted massive European immigration, especially from Italy, Germany, and Portugal, and encouraged racial mixing. The goal, over the generation, the population would become lighter skinned. This is something that unfortunately isn't unique to Brazil and is part of the larger Latino history with blackness and racial purity called mejorar a raça, and we see the lasting effects of this in countries like DR. This brings us to the term you see on every census today, Pardo. Pardo is the official category for mixed-race Brazilians. It's an umbrella term that includes mulattoes, black and white, caboclas, indigenous and white, and cafusos, black and indigenous. According to the latest data from the IBGE, Pardos make up over 45% of the population, the largest group in the country. But there's a catch. For decades, the government used this mixing to promote the myth of racial democracy. They claimed Brazil didn't have racism because everyone was mixed, and we know that to be a lie. In reality, Pardo was used as a tool for social whitening. People would identify as Pardo instead of black, preto, to gain better social status or avoid discrimination. Today, activists in the black movement often group pretos and pardos together as negro to fight systemic change, because being mixed doesn't mean racism disappeared, it just made it more complex. Brazil has one of the most rich black cultures around the world. I used to live there, and when I went to Salvador and Bahia, I was like, oh my God, this is so black. But in places like Rio, I found it to be more mixed and people ran away from black. So it's nice to see that there's a shift to move towards understanding that just because you're mixed doesn't mean you're not black, and doesn't mean that society won't see you as a black person. Much love to all my Brazilians. I can't wait to come back. Ciao.